Hey everybody, welcome back to Battle Ready Inc., the channel all about bringing you as much nerdy content as possible. Today for you, I've got a review video for another mobile game, Knight's Chronicle. If you haven't checked it out already, I'm just going to start off by saying you might want to, and we're about to cover why. Let's get into this. Alright, so just starting off, right, the artwork, as you can see, looks amazing. The music sounds amazing. Like, I mean, how good of a soundtrack is that? Hopefully it's getting picked up right now loud enough for you, and just how good it sounds. As I was waiting to set up for this, I was just listening to it on repeat while I was doing other things as the game got downloaded. So, I have played this on mobile, but right now, of course, I'm doing it on PC for video recording purposes. Alright, so here we are, we're jumping into it. So as soon as you log in, this is going to be your home screen. It's very bright and colorful, very clear, and showing you all the different options there are. It is almost a little overwhelming at first, just because there's so much going on compared to other mobile games. I think at least it does. But it is nice and big and really, like, shows you. So your numbers up here for your energy and such, nice big numbers that fill up most of the screen, unlike in Dragon Village M, which I cover mostly. It's all compressed on like one little bar on the side of the screen, so I think this is a nice change. But the game itself, right, so the animation is amazing. So if you're looking at the artwork here, all the character artwork is flawless. I mean, as far as, you know, the anime style, it is perfect. In my opinion, it's got nice color to it, and it's its own thing. It's not just straight anime. It's like watercolors almost, right? So like how her hair kind of bleeds into different colors and such. Just has a nice fade to it. Alright, but what kind of game is this though, right? So this is going to be one of your typical team building mobile games of you have your different characters and you build a team of 5, and then that is how you go into you fight your encounters. So you'll have your stages, you know, where you clear out the enemies, and then you get to usually stage 3, and then you fight the boss monster for that level, right? So just like in Dragon Village M, it's that same basic concept. However, the game mechanics are quite different, and I'll show you. So we'll go into adventure here. Alright, so here we are on your team, right? So you have your characters, you got your party leader, of course. So my guy increases dark and light allies multi-strike chance, and multi-strike in this game is just when they hit, they have a chance of hitting again. So it's like almost like doing double damage essentially. And they also have a neat mechanic where you can use allies. So it doesn't even have to be your friends. Your friends are usually at the top, but it'll give you other options of just random people to join as well, and they will join in and do their leadership skill as well. So you could use your own characters, or you could substitute your last character for an ally. So we'll add this guy in, and boom. So now his helper skill is down here at the bottom. If he wasn't active, then my character shows up without another leadership skill. So it's usually pretty recommended to use an ally whenever possible. So, and you can even use allies that are the same character, right? So I don't know if one's going to show up for me. There. So this was the same character I was just using. So just by using someone else's, the same character, and I get the leadership skill. So pretty cool stuff there. So we'll go ahead and start this. I should have auto battle on, just from my my settings from before. I haven't played this game in a few months. I've been focusing on Dragon Village M a lot. So the music changed here, showing the different options. Alright, so yeah, he just did a starter skill like he had. So right here you have your turn order, so you can see who's up right now and then who's next in the turn order, which is pretty cool. So you don't have to guess. It is turn-based, as you could tell. Unlike Dragon Village M, which is real-time, never stops, right? There's no... You can slow it down a little bit, but it doesn't stop. So this lets you plan out a little bit better, which in a way is good for more tactical point of view, but it's not as high stress as Dragon Village M is. So it's super fast combat system where you got to act quickly on your skills. This you can take your time and really think about what you want to do. So you have your different skills you can choose from. You can hold down one of your skills and you can read and see what it does, all that stuff. So let you decide, what do I want to do here? And then all your skills have a cooldown. So you see he's got a cooldown of 4 on this one. This is his basic attack, so he can do it every turn if he wants. And then your 3 skill will be your big attack, right? So 300% of attack to one target, right? So he basically just kills one enemy instantly. But it's got a 6 cooldown, 6 turns, so quite a while. So we're just fighting some starter enemies, so we'll just do this AoE here and hit multiples. It is a little laggy for some reason. Usually it's not quite so bad here. So same thing. So you got your next character. So each character has different speeds. So you can build up your character's speed, and that determines how soon in the fight they go. So if you have a character that, say he has a buff and need to buff the entire team, you want his speed to go really high, so that way he's the first to go. So that way, as soon as the fight starts, he goes first and buffs your entire team, and then the rest of the team comes after that. So just a little strategy there of how things work. We'll do another AoE here, just using her. Oh, and so there was the multi-strike that I was talking about before, where it had a chance to trigger. So he does an attack, and then if the multi-strike goes off, then it triggers a basic attack. Okay? Alright. Oh, this is my healer here. We'll just do a basic attack. No one's hurt. Alright, so now I want to show you one of the cool parts of this game. So your characters in the game are a little more chibi looking. So if you look at him there, he doesn't look like his picture down here. His picture art is amazing. Like I was saying, all the game artwork for all these characters is phenomenal. It's super good, very intricate, and it has like nice color flow to it. So it's not just flat black for his hair, right? It fades into multiple colors. And then in the game, though, their avatars, they're a little more chibi and a little more dulled down. However, they're still three-dimensional, so I think that's a great bonus, is having actual three-dimensional battles and not just the standard 2D, like in Dragon Village M, where everything looks very flat. For them to up the game and make full 3D models, I think is really, really nice. But going beyond that, we'll go ahead and activate our super skill. There's cutscenes for all of the big skills in the game for all the different characters. And they all do something really outstanding. So, a little intro for this boss. Very, for him, right, specifically. Alright, so let's do another of these big skills here. So she gets her little cutscene. And again, it's really laggy on the computer. It's not as fluid as it is on the phone. But then, boom, she does her nice, cool skill. Gets the multi off. Let's do another one of these awesome cutscenes. Releases this, like, dark shadow lion that flies and hits the enemy. Does a whole bunch of damage. That was why he attacked back as... Oh, that was the multi-strike, sorry. I believe. There are skills for counter. So when the enemy hits you, you have a chance of just getting a free attack back, which is pretty cool to help balance the whole turn-based aspect of this, so it's not real time. Let's go ahead and use her skill. And look at that model. Like, that model is super cool. Look at that cutscene. Shoots the awesome lightning purple arrow at him. Very, very cool stuff. her special, I can't use it now, but it's a resurrect. So when one of your characters dies, you can bring them back to life. Resets their cooldowns on their skills. You know, depending on how strong it is, that's how much life they come back. So you can level up the skill, that sort of thing. But so that's how the combat system is. So typical turn-based, like more cutscenes. Even the enemies have cutscenes, and a lot of the enemies you fight, like this guy, are characters that you unlock that you can use. So you can unlock this guy and then use him on your team, which is pretty awesome. So that's what I was talking about before, where you want this guy to go first because he's going to buff your whole team, and that's what that skill was. Alright, we'll go ahead and turn this auto battle on as I talk about it. So how the teams work is you want to build a team that's very cohesive. So you can't just have a bunch of individually really strong characters. You need to cover your basics. So you need your healer, of course, and then you need your DPS. Tanks are a little more finicky because all the characters are in a line together. So you're like, well, how would you have a tank if they're not up front? Like in Dragon Village M, how you have your dragons up front that take all the basic attacks. That's not how this works. You get to pick the target you want to attack. So how do tanks play into effect? So you'll have tanks that have AoE skills like taunt. So you hit all of the enemies at once, and then it makes it, and if the effect goes off, then the only character you can target is the tank, and that's how they get over the fact that you can target any character you want. Also, you'll have your kind of tank support types, which will make a shield on all of your allies and make them immune. So things like that. And there we go, we won. Alright, yay, new friend. And then you get your rewards. We got runes, you got your fodder that you can use to level up, and then your gold. You may be wondering what this rank is here, and I'll show you. Your rank is essentially your character level. And while you feel like 153, how much is this, like, how far does this game go? Right? In other games, you hit 50 and then it's just like a slog to gain any more experience, right? Well, in this game, your ranks come pretty fast, so you can level up your rank super quick. So it doesn't take very much time at all to gain. And every time your rank goes up, you refill your energy, which is pretty neat. And I believe the ranks go all the way up to like 300. But like I'm saying, it doesn't take long. You can, I mean, in one fight, you might, at the very start of the game, you might go up like 5 levels, right? You go from rank 1 to rank 5. And that's just how quickly you progress through it. I mean, you'll level up every day probably for the first couple months you play this game. And you're constantly refilling your energy, which is really nice. Another thing I want to point out, so this is the world map here. And you start out at you're 1 and you work through it. What's really cool about this is it has a great story. I know I said that about Dragon Village M back when it came whenever I first started playing it and it came out. But the story, I don't think it compares to this one. This one is so in depth. You go into each of these zones and then there's like multiple stages, and each stage you like uncover more story, and all of your characters interact. The story characters, that is, the team that you use could be the same characters or it could be different. So I believe the starting ones that it gives you are like 3 stars essentially, so they're very low level or low powerful characters, but then you can use your 5 stars if you want. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, so you work your way through the story here, and it looks like they've added new stuff since I played last. These guys here weren't here before, I don't believe. So that's cool that the story has expanded, because when you so easy mode is when you start out, right? Oh, I didn't notice the water changes too. That's pretty cool. So you have your initial story that plays out, and you get to the end, and they end the story. For the most part, it looks like they've added on, so that's cool that we get a little more closure, hopefully. That castle is pretty awesome looking. But then when you go up to normal mode, you're like, oh great, I just gotta play through the same story again. No, you don't. you play through another story of another set of characters whose story parallels the main characters from easy mode. So you get a whole new story from another point of view that interacts with the, and it plays off of what happened in the first story. So it's like these characters are kind of trailing along behind the main characters, and you get to see the after effects of what happens when the main characters come through there. So some stuff is good, some stuff is bad because of the interaction and how things played out. So that's pretty nifty. And then when you go into hard mode, it does the same thing. So it's not one team that you follow through the whole area. It's each zone has its own story of a person that experiences the story of these people coming into their lands, essentially, and how this one NPC that's in this area, how their life changes because of the main characters. So as you go through each zone, you uncover a new story of a character, and that is cool. I think that is super, super awesome. Alright, so this game has a lot of characters, okay? And so they're not in star categories like they are in Dragon Village M. I know I said 3-star earlier. But it's off of a rarity system, so you have your regular rarities, you have your monsters, which essentially are your fodder. You just use to feed to your heroes and level them up. So that way you don't have to grind out experience doing levels. So lots of different monsters that you can use. And so your 1 through 3 stars, your 3 stars, I don't believe they ever get any stronger than that. So literally they're just fodder. And then your rare heroes here, so these are going to be like your 4 stars, and you can rank them up. But you often don't use the rare ones, mostly, for the most part at least. There may be a few instances where a 4-star is worth using over somebody else. But where you really want to start to see your shine is your SSRs. So these are like your secret rares, or however you want to. You got super rares and then super secret rares or something. I don't know what the SS stands for. But the game, like, these are your primary targets for what you're looking for. You want a full team of SSRs. And in other games, that's like, you want a full team of 5 stars, like in Dragon Village M. But there's so many. There's more SSRs in this game than there are the other types, which is good, because of the fact that you need all SSRs on your team. And there are different types, just different categories of characters that they've released. And so these are all your White Knights and your Shadow Guild, your Dark Knights, just different categories. They kind of work well together, is their sort of intent behind this. But not only that, they have story. They actually have background for everyone, which is super cool. So these stories, so with the Dark Knights here, all their stories kind of intertwine with each other. So you can read through and get the background information. You can look at their illustration, which on my computer I cannot look at, unfortunately. But you're thinking to yourself, great, the only way to get good in this game is to have an entire team of SSRs. That sounds pretty miserable. Well, that's the good thing about Knights Chronicle. They just give you SSRs all the time. So you'll constantly be getting them. You have a very high chance of just pulling them in summons. So this game also works like your typical gacha game where you make a bunch of summons and you're trying to get, the SSR or the one super guy. So you got your typical rate ups, right? So when you get your pulls, so you can go in here, look at your summon info. It gives you your chances, which is pretty great, and then your chances of pulling the exact one that you want. So I think that's pretty awesome, honestly. It almost kind of guarantees that you can sort of narrow down your field of which ones you want to pull. So that way you get one that you don't have already. And then they'll have these where they just kind of cycle out. These guys have been in the game for a while now, but instead of just doing your generic 4 to 5 star summon every day, and just trying to get a random SSR, you can spend your diamonds, these little blue guys up here, on your chance. So 200 and for that price, right? And then these are the ones that I have a chance of getting here. So Claude is super cool. I have still never pulled him, but I would love to. He's a tank type. This guy was also super cool. He's from the Shadow Guild, and it has his attack type, hybrid, defense, another hybrid. So getting SSRs is easy, right? So that's what makes this game is so attractive, is that it's easy to earn diamonds, and it's easy just to do a mountain of summons all the time to get really cool stuff. But here's the drawback. Unlike in other games, once you get the SSR, that's not the end of it, right? You have to power these guys up, and the problem is you need your doubles and your triples and your quadruples of these guys to power up their skills. And that's what sets apart other players, mainly in PvP, is how often they've gotten that same character. So how many times have they gotten that same SSR so they could power up their first one that they ever got over and over and raise all their skills. That's the problem. So you can get lots of these different characters, lots of these SSRs, and it feels good until you realize that you can't really compete in PvP as well because you haven't got the multiple copies of them. And when there's so many in the game, like I was pointing out, there's more SSRs than there are other SRs and rares and all the other stuff. Because of that, getting duplicate SSRs becomes difficult. So yes, you can have the highest rarity guys in the game. You might not be able to actually do as well as you think you would. So that's the trade-off. You get lots of attempts at getting them, but you might not always get the ones you need. So you have a very diverse team of your monsters here. So I can just come in here and just show you my list of all the different ones I have, and you can look at my SSRs down here. And there are some instances where, you know, SRs are good as well, just depending on the build that you give them. Some have certain abilities that just set them up for certain scenarios. It's been a while since I played, but I believe this guy right here, like, he had a really good, for long battles, he stacks up, well, he has a stacking ability where he gets bonuses every time he gets a stack of this power that he has. And if it's a long fight, you can get those stacks way up there, and he'll do some crazy damage. But in regular uses, long fights don't really happen. So he's very situational, but as an SR, he can outperform other SSRs, but only in the right situation. Alright, so that's where the whole mechanic of, you got lots of different SSRs, but you need multiples of the same one to make them good. Alright, so just like you have your basic adventure mode where you go and you're farming for experience or whatever, or your different runes, they have your dungeons, which you can go into that kind of do the same thing. So you can farm for gold, you can farm for runes or badges, costumes, and it's like a whole different mechanic in the game that I'm not going to really cover here. It was relatively new whenever I got out. You can essentially change the costume of a character and make them look different, which is pretty nifty. But then it also kind of changes up their abilities. It changes their skills, give them new skills, and just it really changes them. But it usually makes them better. Problem is, a lot of the costumes in the game are you buy with real money, and they're kind of expensive, like $20 plus for one costume for one character, and it's pretty much always guaranteed to make them better than their regular forms. So that part kind of have made the game pay to win. I don't know if they ever changed that to make it not the case, but hopefully you don't have that experience. You can farm for these little monsters here that are for different types, and that's how you can just spam up your experience of your characters and then make them max level. You can farm for your pieces of these guys, so these are really difficult, but you can go down to the bottom and you can find easier ones, and that's how you unlock these guys here. Is you just farm these dungeons, and then you get a chance to basically unlock these guys. So, which is pretty awesome. This time space void down here, this is your typical tower mechanic, where for, I believe it's like a week at a time, yeah, so 5 days, 16 hours. It's a week or a month. I'm not actually sure which. It might be a month in this, but you'll have your floors that you're trying to clear through, and you have you use your characters as they get knocked out. You have less people to try to clear it with. For the most part, I found this to be incredibly easy compared to other games. I always thought they should raise the ceiling cap and make it even harder, but after just a few weeks of playing the game, I was able to clear it no problem. So that was my problem in this game. Whenever I was playing this, is there was the simple tower mechanic, which was pretty easy to beat. There was the story, which for the most part was pretty easy to beat. You can go up to hard mode, and I eventually just stopped playing. I don't remember if it was too difficult for me. I don't think it was. I was getting max stars, as you can see on these guys, as I was coming through and clearing out. I think I just kind of got bored with it because there wasn't enough in-game content. For the months that I played this game, it was super exciting. The story was super cool. It was very enjoyable to play. Getting all those new SSRs always felt good. They give you free summons every day. They give you tickets. So every time you log in, you basically work on this calendar. And as you fill it up, you unlock things off of it. You get like stamps and stuff. And you can get what they call selection tickets. So you just get to pick whatever SSR out of this selection that you want. So if you need to get doubles of a certain character, you can just keep getting that using your selection ticket to get the same one. Or you can use your selection ticket to get a new one that you don't have already. It's all up to your choice. So getting the monsters really wasn't that bad. It wasn't hard. It did take some time and actively playing, but you got them regularly. So that always felt good. I believe the main focus of the game was probably the PvP side of it. That was kind of the end game. The last time I played it, where you're just trying to become, the best, essentially. All right, yeah, new season. So, just like in Dragon Village M, you're accumulating your points. You have so many battles until it recharges. So once you use up your play, then you gotta wait to recharge again. Very simple stuff like that. Your rewards. So as you can see, getting diamonds is pretty easy. Yeah, I mean these are high ranking stuff, but I mean even the lower or the higher ranks, however you want to consider it or look at it, I guess. You get diamonds pretty easily, which is pretty awesome. There you go. You can look at your different tiers here. So I'm like bronze 3 right now. So at the end of it, I get 5 diamonds. So not a whole lot. But I mean, if you're actively playing this game as a regular player, you could easily score up here into the higher brackets and get better stuff. So the different missions you can do here. So once you achieve this, then you unlock this, which is super cool. Another way to get diamonds. Like I'm saying, there's so many ways to get diamonds in this game. So when that special event comes up, where they've released a new character, or they have a set of 4 in the rate up, and one of those is the one that you've been trying to farm, you can save all your diamonds up and then do like a whole bunch of summons, like 10 summons in a row. And usually what happens with those events is there's brackets. So if you do 4 big summons, like 10 summons at once, if you do that 4 times, then you get a ticket and you get a guaranteed one. And then you do 4 more and you get another free one automatically. They do a lot of that, so another great way to get your SSRs that you need. But that's kind of where the game goes. So you're building your teams, you're trying to find good cohesive teams, right? So if you remember earlier, my team had the the leader here, so he increases dark and light allies multi-strike chance by whatever percentage it is. So I can come down here and see, so by 20%. So I could change him out, drop him, and then click her and make her my number 1. So then she gives light and fire instead of light and dark the multi-strike chance. But then I got to look at my team here. So who do I want to be attacking a lot? I've got 2 darks, 2 lights, and only 1 fire. So if 4 out of 5 is, you know, covered by this one guy, I probably want him as my leader. It just kind of makes a little more sense. So you build your teams accordingly to usually go off your leadership skill. That's what I would recommend. Like this guy, he increases water allies by 40%. Well, I probably don't want to put him on my team because he's only going to power himself up, right? So I'd want to scroll through here and look for someone else. Maybe this dark allies by 40%. So her, she's a dark, and then I've got 2 other darks on my team who are both attackers. So building your team to balance out your leadership skills. You want, you know, your healers, your DPS. You don't have to have a tank. This is one of those games where it's not mandatory, but it's highly encouraged just because how good they are. Also, you can see what kind of runes they got on them, which is pretty neat. This game plays just like any other, where your team building is you want to put the runes on them for that boost up their particular set of skills. So, you know, increasing their attack or increasing their speed if they're a character you need to go first for whatever reason. Maybe stuns the whole enemy team, or, you know, boost the attack of your entire team. So overall, how I rate this game, I would rate the adventure mode, the PvE, player versus environment, so your standard story, your dungeons and stuff. I would rate that probably at about an 8. Simply, the thing that really bumps it up is the story mode. It's actually very enjoyable to play through, just to kind of see how the story progresses and how the environments look. All these different environments are very unique when you go in them and fight. They just look super good. I think that's kind of what really bumps the game up for me, is each area feels very unique to itself, and the story, even the different difficulties changing the story. I think that was super cool, which doesn't happen in Dragon Village M. Dragon Village M, you get to the end and it's kind of an okay ending. You wish the game was longer, but then you go through the different difficulties thinking that it might progress the story, but then it doesn't do anything, which is kind of a letdown. The dungeons for farming the specific things that you need, I like that, and I like that it resets daily, so I can just power up. I can get all these experience monsters and then power up all my my main characters. That's pretty awesome. Farming for gold specifically is pretty great. The thing that brings it down, I feel like, is the tower mechanic. It's just too easy to beat. They throw in a loop for you where you've got to certain elements don't do any damage to the enemies, so you have to run certain elements just to be able to do anything. It's not even like you're less likely to hurt them. It's if you don't use the element that you need to, you do 1 damage instead of the thousands that everyone else is doing that's of the right element. So, but even that is super easy to get over and not really that bad. It's too easy and it's too short. It's just not long enough. And I think that's what brings down the PvE mechanic of this. PvP is super good. It's super fun up until you get to a point where you run into the whales. The people that are spending money on those costumes I was telling you about, then it hits a cap where unless you're going to spend a lot of money, you're not going to really enjoy it anymore. Because there's just no way to get those costumes through in-game mechanics. At least I don't believe so. I'll double check right now, actually, just to make sure they haven't changed that. Yeah, so again, $20 to buy this. You're like, well, what's that flash ink? That's just if you buy it, we'll give you 100 crystals. Ooh, shucks, golly gee. It does look cool though. I mean, it's a cool design. Got this like laser sword here, like a lightsaber and stuff. And they've got all these different ones. Every once in a while, they will go on sale. Like you could spend gold on hers, right? So 7 million gold. really isn't that bad if you're actually farming it and not spending it. And but again, it's just a lot of these. It's kind of, so you can spend diamonds on some, but the really good ones, the one that's got the really good buffs, those are gonna be your $20 ones. It's pretty much mandatory to get the costumes if you want to be competitive at all. So that's what brings PvP down, in my opinion, is probably at maybe a 4 or a 5 out of 10, just because the PvP pay to win aspect is so strong, and it almost ruins the game if you're a PvP player. So if you're a PvP player primarily that doesn't spend money, this is a hard skip. Just be straight honest with you, it's a hard skip. Alright. If you're looking for a good mobile game with a good story, this is definitely mechanics like this kind of combat mechanics, this is a perfect pick for you. Especially if you're just looking for the story. Once the story is done, you can move on. It'll take you some time, probably about 2 months to work through the story all the way. And I mean, I figured that's good investment for a free game, and you can spend a couple months playing it a decent amount and get a great story out of it. That's a good win for me, I would say. Just as something to do. You're just playing a mobile game to pass the time wherever. This is a good option for that. If you're looking for a game that has great graphics and great artwork and character design and just the 3D mechanics of it, of how all the characters look in combat, I give that, oh man, I really don't want to say it, but I think I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 just because of that. The artwork is good, the background on the characters is good, the 3D models of the characters are great, the cutscenes for your number 3 skills are super cool. That's just great in itself. That makes this game super playable. But overall, taking into all these things into account, I'd probably give this game probably a 7.5 out of 10. Just the things holding it back are the PvP pay to win problem that you run into. It doesn't have very much in game, so your tower is too easy to beat at the end of it, and leaving you the only in game option is PvP, and that's what brings this game down. As a short burst game, it's great. As a long-term game, if you want to be playing this game past month 2, you're probably not going to happen. Alright, so that's what kind of brings it down right there. In the short term, great game. Long term, as it is right now, probably a pass. There's no raids, there's no like big hard dungeons to do. That's kind of how I'm going to leave this game and where it's at in its current state. Looks great, plays great, just not enough to do at the end. Alright, if you like this video and you want to see more content for other games in the future, I'm going to try to get more reviews out there for you guys. I'm not sure which game I'm going to do next, just offhand. I'll just see when we get there, alright? But as always, we'll see you